Welcome back. In the last video we looked at setting up SSL 360 and getting a console style workflow all in the box, and it did incredibly well. In fact, I'm kind of overwhelmed. Over the weekend I gained about 900 subscribers or more. I'm now almost at 1,000 subscribers out of nowhere, which is crazy. So a lot of you guys really liked it. There's obviously a demand for this kind of workflow, for this kind of thing. That's really cool. But I noticed that there were a lot of recurring questions and a lot of things maybe I didn't show very well. Maybe I could have showed it better or expanded on it a bit more. So I'm going to try and tackle those questions. We're going to take a look at some Reaper specific stuff again, because I use Reaper and I've used it for 15 years or more. Just over 15 years I've used Reaper. And I've used it to create, produce and mix entire albums, multiple albums, across 2 music projects, 2 different genres. So I know a thing or two about using Reaper to produce and mix. So I've got quite a few tips to share that's going to enhance this workflow if you're using Reaper. So let's get to it. So I had some questions around CPU load and what is the CPU load like using this solution. Well, using the 360 thing itself, it's very, very light on CPU because it's just a graphical interface. It's controlling the plugin instances that you put in. It's really not doing all that much. Let's take a closer look at CPU load. On this channel, I'm going to load the Vustec Model N. It's not the most demanding plugin, but it can be on the demanding side. I've turned on oversampling and the analog flavor thing, and we can see we're hovering around 0.55, 0.57. So if we compare that to the same plugin running through the 360 link, here it is. Let's turn on oversampling here too. It's more or less the same, right? I'd say that's negligible. That's the plugin running just normally in Reaper. And that's the plugin running through 360. So there's a little bump, but I would say it's negligible. The Brainworks 9000J, and if I also add the same plugin running through 360 link, let's compare them again. Plugin running normally, 0.25, 0.24, the same plugin. Again, there's a negligible difference. And I certainly haven't noticed anything when mixing using this. And by the way, at the end of the video, I'm going to run through this track, mixing it live, or at least finishing the mix. So that was question number 1. Question number 2. How do sends work? Exactly the same way that you would do sends in your DAW. That hasn't changed, except that you've gained some control in the send section in 360. I'm automating this reverb anyway. And this is being sent to this Lexicon plugin. But yeah, I'm still using Reaper to do that, but I do have some control in here. But you're not going to be, you can't create the send as far as I can see. You've still got to do that in the DAW. The next question is, can you stack the 360 link plugins? Yes, you can. Let's take a look. So on this channel here, let's say I wanted to use the Vustec Model N because it's a bass and I want to get that color and thickness But then I wanted to do some additional tone shaping, or I wanted to use the EQ from an SSL 9000J. So let's add that in as well. So now I have two instances on the same channel, and on 360, as you can see, we can now switch between them. And they are indeed running together. So the Model N is going to be running into the 9000J. So I can push that low frequency there, whatever I want. And then it's going into the 9000J. You can see I've got the compression going from the 9000J. And remember, you don't have to use channel strip plugins. You can use any plugin that you've managed to map. So you can use your favorite compressor going into your favorite EQ, whatever you want, and you just switch them like that. And in fact, let's add a third plugin. If I add the SSL 4000E, I've got three. So you can indeed create your own channel strip. You just switch between them like that. I had a couple of questions asking, what is that blank space up here? And that's actually for SSL's meter plugin. If you have that, you put it on the master channel and it populates this area. I think you get some VU meters, you get some LUFS display, and you get other stuff, stereo image, stuff like that. I don't have it. It's £40, and then there's a pro version for like £80, £90. That doesn't sound worth it to me, to be honest. It might be useful having a meter up there. If that's ever on sale, maybe I'll pick it up. Okay, so Reaper users, this section is for you. But when I was setting up this session, of course, I wanted to add an instance of the plugin on all of my channels at once by just selecting them and having it all, clicking a button and they all go on. I'm going to show you how to set that up. Open the effects window on one of the tracks and just go to add. Now, what you'll have is this view. The first thing you need to do is, if you don't see this effects chains, because what we're going to do is we're going to create an effects chain, but for just one chain, and then we're going to make a shortcut for that effects chain. If you don't see this, you want to click Options, Show in the left pane list, and make sure that's ticked. Effects chains. You can see the ones I've already saved here. The next thing we're going to do is just add an instance of 360 plugin. So you've added it, you've configured it in the way that you'd like. All of the settings you've got here, they're going to be saved in your effects chain that you're going to load with your shortcut. Make sure everything is zeroed. So don't leave, if you leave things like this and then you go and save it, every instance you create using this method is going to be like that. So sometimes it's Control, sometimes Alt, sometimes it's just double click, but make sure everything is back to the defaults if you've been messing with it. But this is good because you can create your own default for the plugins. So for example, my bus compression, because I don't have the SSL bus compressor, I'm using the Softtube bus processor, which is a really good plugin, but I only want the compressor. I don't want this saturation and spatial. I don't want this. I literally just want it for the compressor section. So I've set it up just how I want it to be in all of my sessions when I add it. And with what I'm going to show you, every time I put that in, it's going to be just like that. So, okay, you set everything up. And this is what you want to create a shortcut for to add across all of your tracks. So, by the way, before you do this, here's a recommendation. Press F2 and rename it. Rename it because it's going to be something generic like I think Link 360 SSL bub, whatever, which means that when you look at it on your mixer view, it's not going to be a friendly name that you can easily recognize at a glance. So I like to just rename the effects instance something I'm going to recognize. So I'm going to right click and effects chains, save selected effects chain, and it'll take you to the effects chains folder in Reaper. When we go back to the add effects window, you'll see it in your effects chains. At this point, you can actually choose it. Right click and add to selected tracks. But we actually want to go a step further and create a shortcut. So I've decided to do this from scratch for you. So here's my UAD Neve 88RS. I've set it all up with the mapping, and I'm just gonna say 360 88RS. And then I'm gonna right click, effects chain, save selected effects as chain. I like to keep everything the same kind of naming convention. RS. And then I'm gonna create a shortcut from the add effects menu under effects chains. Find my chain, right click and create shortcut. You'll see this pop up, just cancel it out, that shortcut's created. And then in my toolbar, I'm going to create it here for you. Right click, customize toolbar, and I'm going to go to add. And there's an action, so this is where any action in Reaper you can make a shortcut for. So I'm going to find insert effects chain, and you can see that because I've created a shortcut in the last action, in the last part, I can see it here. And you can do multiples all at once if you want. We're going to do that one. Select or double click, and there we go. We have our 88RS. In fact, we can customize the look of that as well. Right click, set tooltip / text icon. I'm going to make it text double wide icon, or you can make it an icon of your choosing if you want. So there it is. And now if I want to add that Neve 88RS onto all of these channels, or my entire project if I want, I just multi-select them. Then up here, I just click. And here's another handy shortcut that I made called close all effects chain windows. Click that and they all go away. There they are. I'm now mixing with my 88RS. I'm actually surprised that they all actually open, because that uses my Apollo DSP. I'm surprised they all worked. If you're still here, thank you for watching part 2 of this guide for setting up the SSL 360 stuff. I hope I answered some of your questions, and if you're a Reaper user, I hope you got some value from the Reaper stuff there. I'm planning to do some more Reaper tutorials and some more general production and mixing tutorials and stuff. So if you're new to this channel, there's a link to part 1 of this video which you definitely want to watch, and like and subscribe and all that good stuff.